We're back for another episode, and we just had a new baby, and we're tired.
Yep. So we have entered our era of 2 children. So today's episode, we want to talk about just how my birth went and how it's been going, transitioning from 1 to 2 kids. So
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing, but it's also like, whoa, right at the same time.
we both have said to each other, do you remember us feeling this messed up, like this tired with Noah? And Josh was like, no.
I mean, I was messed up. But I didn't have to take care of a toddler in the morning.
Yeah, that's the difference, right? Because don't you think we were able to sleep a lot more?
Yeah, and we were able to sleep quicker.
From what I remember, though, with Noah, I think it was about 3 months that he was sleeping a lot better. So I think it's just that initial first couple months that just kill you. So we just got to keep pushing, you know? I think we've talked about this in the past, but pretty much this entire pregnancy, I was pretty set on having a C-section, which changed at the last second. Which was kind of nuts. So I've talked about it before, but with Noah's birth, I had to have him early because I had this thing called cholestasis. And so the worst case scenario is that the baby can be stillborn. And so they want the mother to have their baby at 37 weeks. And so because it was my first baby, I wasn't really ready. My body wasn't ready to have a baby. And so it took me a really, really long time to get labor going. And so anyway, I was in the hospital for like 3 days. Laboring was horrible. I don't want to get into all the details again because I'm sure we've already kind of talked about it, but
it was not a good time.
Yeah, it was really traumatic. I had like 3 different doctors. The nurses were really great. And this was all in Washington State, but I think it ended up being like 50 hours of laboring. And then I ended up having to have a C-section. Because of that, I felt like this birth, I felt at peace just going in and doing a planned C-section just because they never really told us exactly why Noah wasn't coming down.
We just assumed that it just wasn't going to work.
And the interesting thing is my doctor here in Utah ended up looking into my birth and looked into the details at the hospital in Washington. And they had wrote down that Noah's head was too large.
Abnormally large. That's what they put.
Yeah.
His head wasn't. Like, it looked pretty proportional to me.
But I don't remember the nurses or the doctors saying that. And so that was what was interesting to me, that's what they put. And I think they put he was sunny side up as well, right? So there were a few different things that they had said that me and Josh and my mom don't remember them saying. So whatever the case was, I was pushing for 4 hours. Noah didn't come down. So I was really, really nervous to do a VBAC because I just wasn't sure how it would go, right? Because what if the same thing happened again, right? And so when my doctor here in Utah said that I was looking favorable for a VBAC, I was like, wait, really? And she was saying that I was already dilated to a 2. Didn't she say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think by the time we went into the hospital and I had decided I was going to do a VBAC, I think I was dilated to, was it a 5 or was it a 4?
It was a 4.
Okay. So they admitted me based on how things were looking. It was a really hard transition though for me to switch my thought process from having a C-section to, okay, we're doing this and I'm going to try for a vaginal delivery. And how did you feel, Josh? Like me switching? Were you hopeful?
I was supportive and hopeful the whole time. I just I just prayed that you'd have a better experience because I want a lot of kids. And
what does a lot of kids mean?
I would like at least 4. Yeah, at least. I mean, dude, that's what we talked about before we got married. We both said that we were interested in 4. I remember that. And then, but your experience with Noah was so traumatic that, like, from that point forward, you're like 1 kid at a time, which is totally understandable. But I knew that if it was a horrible delivery again, odds are we're not going to have that many more kids, if any. So I was just praying that you'd have a good experience.
Yeah.
And so I felt like before we went to the hospital that you would be able to do it.
That's good. I loved my doctor. Luckily, the doctor that I had here in Utah was recommended to me for my cousin, and she's great. And so once I was admitted to the hospital, things picked up pretty quick. I had done a membrane sweep the day before, right? And that I think really put things into motion. And then my doctor ended up coming to the hospital and she broke my water.
Really fast, let's rewind a little bit. Because I think it's also important that we talk about how we got a doula.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that was weird, and this was like a thing that I felt like we were kind of in a balancing act. We really felt like the hospital failed you in Seattle. Like there just wasn't, like the nurses were great, but you really weren't checked in on. Like there was no changing of positions. And we like essentially we felt like after hearing what we've heard, they kind of dropped the ball in a way. And so we were very nervous that things might go the same. We were hopeful that things would go well, but also I feel like personally, I wanted to hedge my bets, like I wanted to make sure that not only were you good on that end, but I felt really strongly about getting you a doula because I wanted you to have the emotional support and then just like the support of somebody that knows like all the different birthing positions because it didn't work last time when you were on your back. Which, side note, if you want to know why women give birth that way, you should look it up. It's kind of weird. So there's a weird historical facts around that because that wasn't the norm for a very, very long time. It's more of a recent thing. But anyways, we felt the doula, she was awesome. The doula comes from a super holistic standpoint of just like, you can do it on your own. You don't need like a ton of assistance. Just let your body do its thing. But we also believe in modern science. But there's also things about modern science that we don't trust. Like
we're pretty balanced I would say in both.
Yeah, but we're some people might look at us and think that we're kind of weird as well. Because you and I both have weird feelings about vaccines. It's not that we disbelieve in all vaccines, but I think that I could have a pretty good argument and debate with somebody about where there's overlaps of like financial incentive along with vaccines being pushed that maybe they shouldn't be pushed because the need for them isn't that high. Not to get super political, it shouldn't be political, but COVID vaccine for babies, it's not needed. They're not as vulnerable. Or a hepatitis B vaccine for babies. Why the hell would we give our baby a STD vaccine? You don't have STDs. I don't have STDs. They're not going to come in contact with anything even remotely near something like that. And if they did, I've completely failed as a parent, and so would you have. Like that would come, something so heinous would have to happen in order for that vaccine to be even relevant in the slightest, that it's really like, why? Anyways, I could go on a rant for that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we believe in modern medicine, but we're also skeptical of certain things where I'm just like, we're not sheep, essentially, we think. There are certain things that we think are unnecessary, and we were trying to navigate this because as soon as we got into the delivery room and the doula was there and the nurses were there, initially there was tension. Like there was some tension. You could like kind of feel it in the air. It got dissipated pretty quickly. Anyways, I kind of set the stage. Now you can keep going.
Yeah. So because we kind of flipped our thought process from going to the C-section to VBAC, which I still think you could have a doula with a C-section. I don't really know exactly how that would look, but I still think you could, right? And so my other cousin had used this doula through her birth recently. And so I met up with her and she just seemed like she really cared about me pretty quickly. And I don't know if it was the connection that I have with my cousin, but I did feel like she would be there for me. And I really that meant so much to me that you cared about having somebody advocate for me and be able to have a different perspective, like you said, from the nurses, from the doctor, try different positions, all of the things. And so I'm really happy that worked out. I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And I think God's hands were in a lot of it. And I really do feel like my doula wanted me to have, she kept saying I want you to have a redemptive birth. I want you to have something that you can really feel healed you from the first birth that you had that was so traumatic. And so that meant so much to me because that's really all I wanted. I wanted to feel like I could do this and that I would be healed in a way. And so I have to say this birth really was that for me. And I feel like with my dad passing away, I really felt like my dad was there, and actually other people as well, like some of my ancestors that I felt connected to. And I could go on a rant about that or a tangent, but it's like, I just know that my dad really hoped that for me too. And I really felt that, just because I really felt like I needed healing from the grief that I went through last year with my dad. And I still feel like I'm going through now, you know? Anyways. And so at the hospital, my doctor broke my water. That's what I chose to do. And things really started picking up at that point. And I was already dilated pretty high at that point. I think do you remember? Was I a 6? I don't know.
Yeah, you were.
Okay. So I remember having really intense contractions, and I chose to have an epidural. And I know there's a lot of opinions on that, but I felt really good about doing that. And so it was pretty intense getting the epidural this time. I felt like I was having such intense contractions while he was giving me the epidural, and it was really hard to stay still. I didn't want to look at the needle. It's like, I've seen videos and pictures, and it's crazy how like long it is and crazy. Yeah. So I didn't look at it or anything, but so yeah, I got that. And then one side of my body was still hurting pretty bad. I kept saying like my hip hurt, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that the epidural didn't really work as well on one of the sides. And so that was pretty intense. I remember throwing up. Did I throw up once?
No.
A couple times?
A couple times.
Okay. I was still like in a lot of pain. And I remember trying to work through it with my doula and the nurse. And I ended up getting more from the anesthesiologist.
Yeah, he came back, readjusted it. And then honestly, you fell asleep after.
Yeah. So at that point I was doing really good. The interesting thing about this time though, I felt like I was pumped with so much with Noah, my first birth. Like it was Pitocin, Cytotec. I think they even gave me fentanyl at one point. Like I was pumped with so much crap that I felt so sick and just like puffy after everything, and then being cut open on top of that. And so we really wanted to like not get Pitocin this time. Like I didn't want really a lot of things. And I'm so grateful that because I really didn't feel like I did get a lot of things. Like I don't think I did get Pitocin.
You didn't get any Pitocin.
Yeah. So luckily it was just the epidural, but it was like I was going to say, the difference this time is I had no feeling. I felt like really with Noah's birth, like once they gave me the epidural, I was really, really numb. I remember pushing for 4 hours and not really feeling like anything. And I feel like this time I had a lot of feelings still. And I still felt like I had some movement.
But was it pain?
No, it wasn't pain. Like to me, it was the best of both worlds, because I felt like I could still feel things, but I didn't feel pain really. So I know a lot of people probably think this is crazy, but my doctor asked me if I wanted to see the birth and like have a mirror. And I chose to, which was honestly crazy. Like to me, it was super, super cool to actually see myself do it and like see our baby like actually come out. Like it was so cool to me.
How far into it did it take for you to realize that it was going to happen? Because it was really quick.
Yeah, I think once I started pushing, didn't you say it was like 14 minutes?
Yeah.
I think it was like
you went through 5 waves of
5 pushes. Okay.
Well, each wave had 3 pushes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So once I started pushing, I remember all of you guys were talking, and I could tell that you guys were like, oh my gosh, like the baby's pretty far down, like she's coming. And so once you guys started saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I think she's really going to come out, you know, like it's actually going to happen because of what everyone was saying. And it was hard for me to almost to believe, because everyone was so positive. Like the nurse was so positive. Like you guys were all so happy. And obviously it's like so euphoric, and I'm trying to be in the moment. But I think a part of me was like, oh my gosh, is she really like, am I really going to do this? You know, but once you guys kept saying that, I was like really in faith, like faithful and believing that it was going to happen. So.
But did you like see her, like you seeing her move at all? Did that make you feel any kind of way?
Yeah, it did. Like actually seeing her head come out And like, it was just crazy, like pushing, and you can like see it almost coming, but they're like, okay, just, the doctor's like, wait, like don't push too much right now. Cause I think I think she just wanted me to be careful. Obviously they know what they're doing, but it was just so cool to kind of see her like inch forward and forward and forward, and then like wait, and then just keep seeing it. And then it actually just really come to pass. Like, it was just, I don't know, so euphoric and like so beautiful. And I was really just so proud of myself. And then another thing that I was going to say about a doula that like we didn't really know about is like, we didn't even know that you could do a delayed cord clamping and wait till the umbilical cord is white. Like, I didn't even know that that was an option, right? And like, you got to cut the cord, like, which was cool, right?
Yeah, it was way thicker than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. And then this time we waited to weigh her and do all of those things.
It was more than an hour. It was like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
They
And
let her
lay
on you.
It was just so cool to do the skin to skin for that long. I don't know. Just, I felt way more empowered this time. I felt like we made more informed decisions on like, what we were talking about earlier with vaccinations, with just like, we had more knowledge this time, and I think we were more prepared, because before I didn't have a birth like plan. I just decided to go in not having a birth plan because I knew from a lot of people that I had talked to that they just said things don't usually go the way that you think, right? And that for sure came to pass. But I was just grateful that even though we didn't know how things were going to turn out, I feel like we still had preferences and we followed through with, I feel like, pretty much all of them. Like, it ended up really just working out this time. But that's why I do say, like, you should probably take things one kid at a time, one pregnancy at a time, because you just don't know, right? Like, how it'll go, how postpartum's going to go, because this time, like, when I had a C-section and I labored that long, I was not doing okay. Like, I was in the worst state of my life. And I feel like this postpartum has been like a night and day experience. Like, I've been way happier. And I mean, I've had moments, where you still feel like a roller coaster of emotions, but I don't know. I'm just so grateful that I was able to experience a vaginal birth too. And I just feel so grateful that I was able to experience both, because this recovery comparatively to a C-section has been beautiful, like, for me. And it's still hard, we're tired, and I was, still bleeding for a long time. I was in pain, but the pain for me personally, comparatively to the C-section, it doesn't even compare. Like, I've never been in more pain in my life, like, than that with the C-section. So I really am just so grateful to God for this experience, and grateful for all the prayers and just people and angels, I feel like, that really helped me through the birth, and obviously my doula and the nurses and doctor and everything. Like, I'm so grateful for everything that happened, and that Indy is healthy and happy, and she's so beautiful, and just, we really are so blessed, even though it's a hard phase with the sleep deprivation, but I think it's, it's definitely worth it. So if anyone's scared to have a child, I get it. It is scary because there's a lot of variables, but it's 1,000% worth it.
It is worth it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you feel like that sums up the birth?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah. So for you, I guess, like, how was that experience watching the difference, like, with me this time?
I was just really happy for you. I was really happy for you. I was happy that I could just tell that you felt differently about it, and that you had the experience that you needed to have. Honestly, you were so happy afterwards. I swear, you seemed like you could, like, even just a couple hours later, it's like, dude, you look like you could go do some jumping jacks or something. Like, I just feel like you really felt all the positive hormones that you weren't really able to feel the first time, just because you were super out of it. I'm just glad that this experience was really, really healing for you and for our family. And it was just a special moment,
Yeah, for sure. So we have a boy and a girl now, which is so cool. How has the transition from 1 to 2 kids been for you?
There's a nuanced answer to that. Noah has always been sweet with Indy.
Yeah, he's been good with her.
He hasn't expressed any jealousness. He's always wanted to like hug her, give her kisses, even to the point where it's like if he's sick and he's trying to do it, he gets mad that we won't let him do it, or he'll try to sneak it, like try to sneak giving her kisses when we aren't paying attention, which he has done when he's been sick. So it's been really fun seeing like the positive dynamic around that. There's some aspects of it that have been hard because Noah did get sick shortly afterwards and he needed attention and love. And so it's been hard, to kind of find that balance. Luckily, your mom was able to help quite a bit when we got home, when we got there. My parents were able to come as well. Mm-hmm. We're just very tired. I thought we were tired the first time, but having a 3-year-old and a newborn baby, it's like by the time I'm done feeding Indy at night, like it's gonna happen. It happens sometime between 1 and 3 a.m. Noah wakes up and wants to get in our bed.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know if it has to do with the sickness or he's just kind of having a regression, but like he's been sleeping horrible too.
Yeah.
So that combination of him not going to bed and sleeping through the night has been rough too, because it's like once we put her down, like you said, then Noah comes in and we're like, oh my gosh, dude, we just need to sleep. Mm-hmm. And this 6th season has been really, really bad. Like I've talked to a lot of people and I think a lot of people have been getting the flu, which that's what Noah had.
And it's a nasty flu.
Yeah, like it's been over 2 weeks now that Noah's been sick. And like his muscles were aching and for a while.
It's like viral myos something. I don't know. Like it's like a viral inflammation of his leg muscles.
Yeah, like we thought it was growing pains because Noah's had growing pains in the past. At least we believe that's what they were because Josh had growing pains when he was younger. But anyway, it's just like been kind of crazy because Noah was walking on his tippy toes for a little bit.
Yeah, it was weird. I thought he was faking it.
Josh was like, Noah, stop walking like that. And we're like, feeling so bad because Josh took Noah to the doctor and he's like, oh, that's could be because of the flu, why he's aching and walking like that. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I feel like we're juggling a lot because Josh, even though this is considered his like off season, you have been working too. So
there's
it's like
literally no off season. It's not true.
Well, when you're a business owner.
Yeah, when you're a business owner.
But like in the pest control industry, this is the slow season, right?
For my sales reps, yeah, they just sit around, do nothing, and play video games all day.
And work out.
For those guys, yes, it is the off season.
I'm just saying, like,
you're correct. It's stereotypically the slower season.
But I'm just saying this time has been a little bit harder because you're trying to do so many things with your business right now.
Well, it's just like the first time we had a baby, we were maybe 300 customers deep. And now we have thousands and thousands and thousands of customers. And so it's just very, very different.
Yeah.
Like the need of me to be more involved is just different.
Yeah.
And I'm not an employee. If I just took like a 6-week paternity leave and just checked out, like stuff that needs to happen wouldn't happen.
Well, yeah, because it hasn't even been 6 weeks yet since I've had a baby. And so it's just kind of crazy to think about that, But you've definitely shown up and continue to show up. So Josh...
Show up and show out.
Josh wanted me to do a poll on my story before we recorded this episode because he's been so curious. He like asks me all the time. He's like, do you think her husband would get up in the middle of the night? Do you think this guy would? Do you think a lot of guys would? I'm like, Josh, I don't know. Like, let's do a poll.
Give the backstory, though, before you do.
Well, I mean, okay, I've said this before. I'll say it again. But with the birth with Noah, like, I 1,000% could not have done it without you. Like, you helping me through the night. Because I was in so much pain. I don't think that I could have done it. I really don't. And so I don't think I've ever had somebody show up for me the way that you have. Like you even said, it's like true love, because you can't even explain to somebody how sleep deprived you can be when you get up every 2 to 3 hours through the night. Right. And
yeah,
so
it messes with your brain. Like your brain is not able to recover the way it's supposed to recover at night.
Yeah. And I would say both of us like our sleep. We're not morning people. Like And I just feel like we have a really hard time functioning, both of us, on low sleep. Because my mom even said that about me since I was little. Like, I was always a good sleeper and I loved sleep. And that's like literally never changed. And so we've had this discussion where it's like, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, I get it, that really the only person that can feed the baby is you. So
and when she says you, she's not talking about me.
I
don't
the
have
mother
nipples like that.
even though Indy
She's tried
to do that. But for me, I needed the help mentally, and so I wanted to pump. And luckily, like, we had that option, because like I talked with my mom and she was like, we didn't have pumps like that. It's like it was breastfeeding or formula, you know. This go around with baby Indy has been the same, where you have helped a ton through the newborn phase already. Like, you get up most nights, like, and
I think we can only count one day where when I haven't.
But I mean, I still am
I'm not trying to diminish you. I'm
No.
not trying to diminish.
I'm not saying that. I'm explaining that I still get up with Noah sometimes when he gets up, and I have to get up and pump sometimes. And like, you're doing the bulk of like focusing on Indy and feeding her. And so it's really hard. It's really difficult. And I'm super grateful.
I do think that we both have had to be more hands-on this time. Whereas I haven't, like last time I was able to do all of it while you were recovering, at least for those first 2 months, because you literally like physically were recovering and you couldn't. But this time it's been more difficult because we have to have two men on deck, you know, at all times.
Yeah. And like a lot of the time, like
it's like we're playing man-to-man defense.
Yeah. A lot of the time though, I'm in pain though. Sometimes like I have to pump, and I still like hear things. I wake up when she cries, like, I mean, I'm just saying, it's like you still don't get a good night's sleep no matter what, right? None of us, neither of us do. But like actually being the one feeding and having to stay up is really, really hard because she takes a long time to feed.
Yeah, she has this weird thing where, like, first off, she's a pig. Like, she is a pig.
Miss Piggy?
Yeah, she is Miss Piggy. She will down 6 ounces over a period of 2 hours. Like she'll feed, burp, feed, kind of feed as she's falling asleep.
Yeah.
And then you like, it's like at that point where like, oh, do I need to burp her again? Or could I just like get by with laying her down?
You're so out of it that you're like,
out of it.
yeah.
I'm like, the temptation to lay her down is too much to resist. And so I lay her down, then she squawks. And then she doesn't burp because she didn't eat enough. And so then I feed her more and she eats and feeds and feeds and feeds. And then she finally burps and then she crapped. And so then I have to change her diaper. And then she's too awake to go to sleep. And so she wants more food. But all this time, it's like you have to get the bottle perfectly in her mouth because she has like a nasty gag reflex. And so it's like she gets angry. She gets really angry because she wants it. Like she'll be like rooting around for it.
Frustrated, yeah.
And she's super frustrated because if it doesn't like line up perfectly, it'll like make her gag. It's frustrating for both of us. Because
sorry, I'm laughing, but it's like it's such a process.
Dude, and like that's like a legitimate scenario. And that's what's happening between like 1 and 4 a.m. every damn night. And so like, that's how you know I truly freaking love you and I truly love Indy because, damn, that's a lot. And I feel like I have a newfound appreciation. Like
oh my God.
I felt this way after Noah was born too, but it's like, wow, I could not imagine being somebody that just did that. Like, dude, shout out to the breastfeeding moms because that sucks. Like, I could not imagine being the only person that had to do that.
Takes such a toll.
Yeah, it's like it's too much. It's too like I couldn't do it 100%. Like if I just had a baby and I was the sole purpose, 100%, I would probably have postpartum depression bad. Like
you top out.
Like it would transition from postpartum depression into postpartum psychosis. Like I am not exaggerating. Like the sleep deprivation is just crazy. And then I go to work. And you have to hold it down, and you do with two. Like, it's not like you get a break either, because, by the time I finally have to, like, finally she's done eating, Noah gets into our bed. Or he gets into our bed while I'm, like, trying to feed her.
Calm her down.
Yeah. But, like, last night, she legitimately didn't go to sleep until, like, she was awake from, like, 1 until 3:30. Because, I don't know, she just didn't want me to set her down.
Another thing that's been hard this time, for some reason, Indy's not, like, super keen on taking a binky.
No, she's not impressed. I made the joke that she's like, I'm not working for free here. Like, she doesn't want to suck on it and not get the milk. So she's like, if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna get something out of it.
Well, but Noah, though, I felt like we could soothe him a little bit more from what I remember, because he was so good at taking a binky.
Yeah, he was. But Indy, no, she's not into it.
So it's like, it feels more drawn out, because I feel like we can't soothe her any other way than feeding her. And it's hard when they're this little, like, you can't let them cry it out. Like,
no,
they have to
She's
eat.
always crying. Like, if she's crying, it's for a specific reason. And you and I are usually really good at figuring out what that is. But man, it's that gag reflex. Like, when you can't get around it, it's just not lining up right, and it's been like a couple minutes, but she won't stop rooting for the bottle. But then you, like, give it to her and she gags, and it's just like, bro.
So I saw something on TikTok, actually, though. A girl posted about this, and she was like, I'm fine getting up in the middle of the night, the whole night, because my husband has to go to work. And she was like, I don't care what you guys say, but, like, I'm going to do that for my husband. And so I'm curious, like, do you feel like it's messed up of me to have you get up when you have to go to work?
No.
You really don't?
No. I think that I deserve more praises.
Like what? Like words of affirmation?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
I feel like I could get my ass kissed more often. But
okay.
It's like one of those things where I couldn't imagine not doing it for you. That's like the truth. But at the same time, I feel like it should be understood that it's not normal. Most husbands probably wouldn't, or would find some excuse, or they legitimately can't because they're breastfeeding. Like,
it's a mixed bag.
I don't feel like you take it for granted.
No, I definitely don't. I'm super grateful.
But it's also something that I'm proud of. Like,
yeah, you should be.
Like, I'm proud of being able to help you and our daughter in that way. And because she's my daughter too. Like, I want to feed her. Well, like, it would make me sad if I wasn't a part of this process.
I have to say, though, like you said, shout out to all the moms in general, right? But it's like, I feel like some husbands really should shift their mindset a little bit. Like, because we're pregnant for 9 months. I get that, like, there's nothing that, like, a man can do to change that. But I'm just saying, like, we've had sleep deprivation for a long time throughout the pregnancy, right? I know it's not exactly the same, but it's like, I've been in pain. I've had sleepless nights. And I'm just saying, like, we go through so much with pregnancy and childbirth that I do think husbands should help more, especially in the newborn phase and just in general. Like, I do think that it should change. Like, and if it hasn't, it does make me a little bit sad, because I don't know, like, I wouldn't want to continue to keep having kids with somebody, for me personally, mentally, all of the things, like, if I didn't feel like you were, I don't know, just thinking of it more as like a partnership. Like, yes, you have to go to work, which I salute you, and I'm so proud of you.
But you also have to take care of Noah.
Yeah, it's like, but I still have to get up. I don't really get to sleep right now. The only time I've been able to sleep is when Noah's at preschool, and I can, like, fall back asleep for a little bit. But even then, sometimes it's like it's
not restful.
It's not restful, and it's like I have to pump, and sometimes it doesn't always line up, right? So it's like, do you get what I mean? Like, sometimes it's like you want to go to sleep, but you can't because you're woken up because of the milk coming in, and, like, there's just so many things. And so we're all balancing a lot, but I just think if you're both choosing to have children together, I do think it should be more of a partnership. But I do understand, like I am saying, that if you're exclusively breastfeeding, there's really, like, nothing that your partner or your husband can do. So
how do you think you would feel about it if I didn't help and it was just you?
I mean, I think, like you said, it'd be way easier to be depressed and resentful and just like disappointed. I don't know. And I would let you know, like, I don't want to have a ton of kids then, right? Like, that's how I genuinely feel. Like, if my husband's not going to help me and show up with me.
What if I helped in every other way? Like, because there's a lot of husbands that are awesome husbands, but they just didn't help at night.
That's true. But I'm talking about more of just being a hands-on father in general, not just like the newborn phase. I'm saying like how you show up and you caring for our kids and playing with them and doing all these different things, like that shows to me that I mentally, physically, all these things want to have more children with you because you show up, right? And it's more balanced. That's how I personally feel, and that's what I personally need. I think everybody feels differently, right? Like, I'm sure there's wives out there that are like, my husband's working super hard. He's making good money. He's doing this, and they compartmentalize it, right? And they're like, he's doing all this, and I do my job, he does his job. I do think that's a little bit generational at times. Like, I've just heard more of like the boomer generation kind of say like, I didn't even ask for help because what's the point? Like, they're not going to do it, or they can't do it. They're going to work, like whatever. They just assume. I don't know. That's just the way it is. But for me, it's like, no, I'm going to let you know that that's not the way that it is. And if you want to have 4 kids, it ain't going to happen if you're not showing up. Mm-hmm. So, but I'd
be down with 5.
That's where I'm at. So we're most likely not having 5, but I love that for you. So I'm good at 3. So
but let's be honest. It's not the kids that you dislike. It's pregnancy. Because you've talked about how you'd be down to have twins, which I'm not down. I'm not down with that. Because then neither me or you is getting sleep at all. Like, if we ever had something like that, dude, we are paying, like, I will straight up go into credit card debt I'll go into unworldly amounts of debt for sleep, like for a night nurse. And I'm not even joking.
Well, like I'm saying maybe.
Or I would insist that either my mom or your mom moves in with us for the next like 3 months. And I don't care how much you like or dislike it. Like, it's just like, that's way too much.
Yeah.
So shout out to people that have had twins. My cousin Carly had twins, and
she had a lot of help though from her family, right?
Yeah, she did. But like, I don't see any other way in which you could do it. Like, yeah, it's just wild.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. The only reason why I said it would be nice to have twins is because you get 1 pregnancy for 2 kids.
That's what I was saying. It's like, it's not that you have issues with more kids. It's you don't like being pregnancy.
I do.
You don't like the pregnancy.
It's both.
Oh, so what you really mean is that you'd be down to have 1 more pregnancy and have twins and then be done, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because then it's 4. It's amazing for 1 pregnancy. It's not that I have issues with kids. It's more just like the process of everything, right? It's like pregnancy, postpartum, recovering, losing weight, like, but also taking care of the kids, like, and raising the kids. It's a lot. It's a commitment every single time.
By the time we would even have the 4th kid, though, Noah would be old enough to help.
But who's to say he will?
I mean, I feel like some families, they just expect it from their kids, and it happens.
All I'm saying is it depends on the kid. Like, I just know that my sister has always said her oldest daughter is like super, super helpful. And then her second son's not very helpful. And so,
but is it expected?
I think so. But I just think that sometimes, like, depending on male and female, depending on the kid, they're going to be more helpful, you know? So I don't think you can just say that that's for sure going to happen. It's not always going to happen.
My parents, like, didn't really expect me to be helpful. And so I lived up to that. Or I lived up to their expectation of me. Honestly, dude, that kind of sounds like my whole freaking teenage years is me living either just below my parents' expectations of me or like just barely above it. I'm like treading water and trying not to drown. But I think that kids oftentimes will rise to what is expected of them. And honestly, if we're being honest about human behavior, what they're incentivized to do. Like, if you want something out of a kid, you better make it be in their best interest if it's not something that they naturally want to do.
But I do think it could be worth it in the future, depending on your financial situation, to actually like hire somebody to help you in, like, through the newborn phase.
Oh, hell yeah. That's
like,
100%.
I'm just saying, like, I would do that though.
100%. Like, yeah. I don't ever want to remove us from the process because it's a process that I feel like it's like a bonding period between us and Indy and us and Noah that I don't want to remove myself completely from. Like, I would do 2 nights a week and then the nurse can take the rest. like the night nurse or whatever.
Yeah,
But I'd be unwilling to completely remove myself from that.
that makes sense.
But as long as I have enough time to recover my lost REM sleep, I'd be down.
Okay, so we did a poll on my story, and I just said, did your husband/significant other help with nighttime feeding during the newborn phase? Genuinely curious. So we got 20 votes for no, did not help. 10 votes for yes, and seldom we got 4 votes. So more on the spectrum, we got no's. And then I said, if they can, should they? And then I understand if you exclusively breastfed, it's not really possible. But we still got 20 votes for sure, and then 3 votes for nope, all good. And then I just asked, how did you feed your babies? Just because I kind of wanted to see like where the percentages at were with that. It looks like we got both pumping and breastfeeding were 13 votes. And then we got 11 votes for just breastfeeding, 2 votes for just pumping, and then 2 votes for just formula. So it looks like a lot of husbands probably could have helped if they're doing pumping and breastfeeding, right?
And they chose to or chose not to.
I'm just saying if they didn't help, right, then the husbands chose not to, I'm guessing. Or maybe even the wife was just like, you're good, you don't need to. It could have gone a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard because there's a lot of variables when it comes to that. But I would say
everybody's dynamic is different.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was thinking, what if somebody worked like night shift too?
It wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, it wouldn't be possible. Yeah. There's just a lot of variables, right? But I would say from people that I've talked to, most of my friends, I feel like has said that their husbands didn't really help. And like another friend just messaged me and said, I feel like it depends on each couple. And then another friend said, no, because I was exclusively breastfeeding and she didn't take bottles very easily. But I think when we have our next kid, I might supplement with formula for night feed so I can have more help. So there's just a few, like responses that we got, but just interesting. But I am super proud of you and I'm super grateful for you, and I couldn't do it without you, and I'm super grateful that I picked somebody who's more hands-on and supports me. Like I really don't know what I would do without you. So I'd probably be done at 2 kids. Honestly, I'd be checked out. For you, has it been easier to go from 0 to 1 kid or 1 to 2 kids?
0 to 1 kid was way easier.
Really?
But I only see that because hindsight is 2020. But it's also where we were in our life.
You know what's interesting though? For me personally, I think it was easier to go from 1 to 2 kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's because of where you were, Well,
I'm saying I'm mentally so much better, but also I feel more confident as a mom.
I'm just talking about the sleep aspect.
I'm talking about in general.
Oh, so like I think that being a parent came a lot more easily to me than I ever really anticipated or expected to, because I never really thought about it. To be candid, I just don't really care that much about other people's kids. So I just never really had any super deep thoughts about it. Mm-hmm. But then when Noah was born, I don't know, like you just feel different about it. And then same with Indy. Your dynamic of it has 100% made the process from going from 1 to 2 better than from 0 to 1. But with where...
Just because I'm doing better mentally, or what do you mean? Oh, okay.
All of the above.
Yeah.
But with where I was at from a business standpoint, it was easier for me to walk away and be more attentive on the first child than it was the second child.
That makes sense.
Like the demands that I have of me being pulled in multiple different directions is way more right now than it ever was.
Well, shout out to all the parents out there. We see you. Keep doing it. We see you. We support you. But yeah, we're super grateful to have 2 healthy kids and just experiencing parenthood together.
Hopefully by next week's episode, we'll have more sleep.
Hopefully we'll manifest that. But thanks again for listening and welcome to the zoo.